Are you a mom who loves fun, momming, and protecting your family? If you want to meet some of the most amazing people from all over the gun world and beyond, you are in the right place. Tune in for encouragement and sometimes just courage for moms and women just like you who are curious about shooting but are intimidated or just don't know where to start. Hey, all you tough mothers out there. I have got a really cool guest today. I've got Melissa Bachman, who is the coach of Winchester Deadly Passion on the Sportsman's channel. Melissa, I have so many questions for you, but first things first, how did you get into it and kind of like what was the progression of getting into hosting that show?
Well, I was really lucky because I grew up in a family in central Minnesota where my mom and dad absolutely love to hunt. So my dad still jokes to this day that they brought us along because, well, they didn't want to pay for a babysitter. So those were things that we did together in the field. They got us, out there with them, and I just fell in love with it. All the way through school, that's all I wanted to do is hunt. They let me have a work permit through high school that I didn't have to be at school till 10 a.m. in the fall, so I could go bow hunting because I was providing food for the family. So that kind of shows, the passion that I had for hunting. And, looking back on it, it's just such special bonds with your entire family. I went to college. I got a double major in television production and Spanish. Got done, started looking for a job. Couldn't find anybody that would hire me. Everybody said, no, you don't have any experience. And I think I sent out like 74 resume reels. I got 74 no's. And I was like, now what? I had perfect grades. I did all these activities. And so I went back to the number one place I wanted to work, called them up. I said, I know you didn't want to hire me. What if I come and work for free? And they're like, oh, well, what can you do? I was like, well, I can shoot, I can edit, I can sweep the floors, I can log tapes, whatever you need. And they said, well, when can you start? And I said, tomorrow. So that's how I got my start. I did that for 4 months, working for free, drove 150 miles a day back and forth to go to a job to work for free. But it ended up paying off. They hired me as a full producer. I worked there for 4 years and then broke away, started my own company, and created Winchester Deadly Passion.
That is like just amazing. That just blows my mind. It's fun. Side note, in my previous life, my husband and I were business coaches and we talk to entrepreneurs all the time. And that difference between the people that succeed and the people that don't are the people that are like you, that are like, I don't care. I will work for free. I will come, I will mop, I will take out trash. I will clean toilets, whatever it takes.
Whatever
I'm going
they
to get
needed.
it done.
Yep.
And you get it done. So kudos to you for having that like drive. And that's just so cool to see like other women just like taking charge of their life and their passions and doing that. That's awesome. So ladies.
And the funny thing, I was either going to do this route or I was going to be an anesthesiologist. And I'll be the first to tell people there were times when I looked at my bank account when everything is in the red and I'm thinking, I should have went to med school.
That's true.
But you learn from it and it's your passion. It's what you want. And eventually it works out. It takes a long time. I'm someone who's a go-getter. I want it to happen tomorrow. It doesn't happen that fast. It takes time, but you go with the process and see how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. And now you're doing something that you absolutely love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like anesthesiology is a great career. Actually, one of my neighbors, anesthesiologist, wonderful man, love him, like as a friend and a neighbor, but man, what you do is just so much more exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
So you had this passion growing up as a kid with your family and just hunting for food and kind of providing for your family. At what point were you like, this is what I want to do as my career? Like, I never want to stop doing this.
Well, I didn't actually know that there was a way to make a career out of it, to be honest. When I absolutely loved it. But when I was getting into TV, I was looking into the news industry or sideline reporting for the NFL, something like that. And, none of those didn't really seem to fit. And I was like, well, wait a minute, there's hunting shows out there. Maybe I could use what I've learned and try to do this. And that's when I kind of decided that is what I'm going to do. This is like the perfect way to make it happen. And I also knew that, you can't walk in and say, hey, I love to hunt. I'll be a great TV host for you. Let me be in front of the camera. They'll laugh me out of there.
Right.
Instead, I kind of went the back route. I learned all the back end stuff. I learned to be a cameraman. I would film myself doing the things nobody else wanted to do. And then when they didn't get it done, I'd say, well, I did it. You can have it for free. And I did that with shows. I did it with tips. I did all the things other people didn't want to do. And I waited for the time when they were kind of scrambling. and they didn't have anything to fill it with. And I'd say, well, here's mine. It's all done and you can have it for free. Free is the key word across the board. Everybody loves free things. And what it did is it gave me that exposure. And eventually some of those sponsors started saying, well, what about that Melissa girl? And they're like, oh, no, 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 no. You don't want her. She's just a cameraman. And then I was able to transition. But even when I had my own company, if I had had to hire people to do those things, I'd have went broke. I had nobody bankrolling me. I had nobody helping. So the fact that I knew each and every position, it wasn't fun. It was over 100 hours a week, but I was able to do it all and to survive until I could get to the point where I could get some help. So I think there's a lot of benefits, but it also, you've been there. You know, you're not going to get on a cameraman for something going wrong because you've been there. You've made the mistakes. You're all trying the best you can. And I think sometimes people forget that.
Yeah, it definitely gives you that perspective, right? Where, not only from an artistic standpoint, right? Where you're like, oh, I know this angle looks good, or I know how to cut and make these interesting and not have too many like dead spaces. But yeah, identifying with what your team is going through, how you can best help them to achieve the best product out there. And it sounds like you were just like, I'm going to give a metric ton of excellent content, and I'm just going to provide like value and value and value. And eventually people are like, whoa, this Melissa chick, she's amazing. Like, we should give her her own show.
They either have to notice or you guilt them into it and they feel so bad that you've done so much that they give you a few breaks. So that was my route.
That's awesome. So okay. So coming from a woman like in the hunting field, like how were you received as far as like being a woman in that space? Because I feel like it's pretty male dominated, but
100%. But I think to be totally honest, I've always said that I've been given just as many opportunities because I'm a female as the opportunities that were maybe taken away because I wasn't. So I really, truly think it evens out. I think people are excited to see you in the industry for the most part. But I did run up against some things, of course. But I firmly believe as soon as you prove yourself that you're not high maintenance, that you're not going to be a pain, and that you know what you're doing, people respect you just as they would any man. Maybe once or twice in my entire career have people just been rude just because they don't believe women should be out hunting. Other than that, the vast majority, they're thrilled to have people there because a lot of them wish their wives or daughters or people did it too. So as soon as you can prove that you know what you're doing, you're not trying to get extra help, you're willing to work just as hard as everybody else, I think you can easily gain that respect. And overall, it seems like a scary community to come into, but they're very welcoming people.
Yeah, I found that like I don't do any sports shooting, which I think it's amazing. I just don't think I would be geared towards it. But like just the shooting community, everybody seems to just share this passion where they're like, yeah, you like shooting? I like shooting too. Let's talk about guns 24/7. My husband, not a shooter. So anytime I meet somebody that's into guns, he's like, well, there goes my wife. She's gone for like the next half hour. And people are just so welcoming and willing to help you and to like, and yeah, of course, there's always going to be that random, person or two that's got their own opinions. And I think that's in any field, right? Like, it doesn't matter where you go. There's just going to have somebody that is closed-minded or just doesn't want to like accept new realities. That's fine. But the vast majority are amazing. So tell me a little bit about the show. Like, what exactly do you do? And kind of like, how does it all come together? And like, it sounds really fun. So I'm super jealous.
Well, in the beginning, I would travel around 320 days a year. I used to always joke that I wanted to travel and hunt every single day. I can assure you 320 days is close enough to every day. You don't need to get to that everyday threshold. And then you will get burned out. You miss every family event. You're never around. I actually got my little dog Pork Chop because I was so lonely on the road because I was always by myself, have cameramen come in and out. And I try to have one person with me most of the time, but I got Pork Chop. She started joining me and I'm like, oh, this is way more fun. But now I have a family. I don't want to be gone so much. So I've gotten a little smarter about booking things. I've learned from my own mistakes. I mean, you learn to be more efficient. And I think I've done a good job with that. But I hunt basically all fall. I do a few hunts in the spring and summer. What's nice is I live in South Dakota now. So I'm a little bit more centrally located and have a lot of great locations right around me. So that's nice because then you can come home at night after a long day of hunting, still see your family. But I usually am out filming all fall, and then I will be editing all those shows like right now, for example. So I'm usually about a year behind. So when you see something on TV, it happened right around a year ago. But to
Oh.
this day, I still do all the production. I have someone who helps edit some of the segments for me, but I do all the finishing production of the show. I saw all the sponsorships. I do all the paperwork, all the stuff on that front. So you're busy every day. There's always a long list of stuff sitting next to my desk of things that need to get done. But it's nice. You can work from home. You can travel. I pick my hunts. I book my travel. So if I ever think I booked them too close or I don't have enough time, only one person to blame.
That is so cool. So you basically are just like, yeah, I feel like traveling to X, Y, and Z
Yep.
location. I'm going to hunt X, Y, Z animals, and yeah, I'm going to get paid to do it. That sounds pretty freaking amazing.
And in the beginning, I literally could not pick anything. It would be who will barter with me and allow me to maybe make a film of their place for the trade off of me hunting or helping with this or that. So in the beginning, you didn't get the options. I had no budget to pull from. And there was no salary, unfortunately, at the end of the day. But as you keep going, you learn to build those things in. And, like my husband and I are doing brown bear hunts this year in Kodiak. It's something I always wanted to do. We get to do that together. We'll make 2 shows out of it. We're going to do a Yukon moose archery hunt. He's got a tag too. And then a lot of the rest of them I'll just do on my own as I normally do. But I like having the option to bring people along. I brought my grandmother. She's 79. She did a spot and stock hunt in Colorado. I brought my mom, my dad, my brother. So it's just fun to include people. And I think people like seeing that. They like seeing that little aspect of family in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so cool. Your grandma's like, yeah, I'll go out there. I'll do
Yeah,
it. Yeah, why
it
not?
was awesome.
So do you guys you keep the meat or do you like share it or how does that work?
So we always have a full freezer, but our kids hunt as well. So we try to make sure that all their animals we keep. So that way, when we're eating it, they can say, "Oh, that was my deer," or "That was my elk." And if we get too much, usually what I'll do is I'll pay for the processing and then find a local family in the area that needs some extra help or needs some meat, and then I donate it to them. If I can't find anybody, I just donate it to the processor, and they can give it to someone they feel is in need and would be benefited by it. But I always do the processing for them. So that way it's all packaged, ready to go. And whoever might need it can get it. And it's kind of fun because you meet different families around the country. There was a family in Colorado, their kids could only eat wild game because they had so many food allergies. So they started kind of being dependent on, well, you're going to come out and shoot an elk or a mule deer or whatever, because we really would like to have that. So it's fun. You build a lot of relationships.
That's amazing. And I love that you're kind of giving back to the community and sharing that. I think a lot of people that have like hesitations around hunting, it's like, well, you eat meat, right? Like either you eat meat and you don't have a problem with hunting or you don't eat meat and that's fine. That's your prerogative.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's amazing that you're like, no, nothing goes to waste. It goes to like families that need it or your family and teaching your kids the value of that. Cause I think a lot of people don't understand like, yeah, meat comes in a little package from the grocery store and there's no inherent value that like an animal gave its life for this sustenance, right? But when your kids are out there, they're shooting with you, they're learning like, okay, something had to give its life to feed our family and feed other families. I think that's far more valuable than just like, here's meat and don't waste food, like it's just
And I think a common misconception is that hunters don't care for animals, right? I treat my dog like a little human. I can promise you, I love animals so much. But when you're hunting and you think about it, let's say I shoot a buck. I'm shooting the oldest deer that I can find, the most mature. A lot of times they're on the way down, and they've lived a free life out in the wild the entire time. You shoot them, you make a quick ethical kill, and now you have the meat. Compared to something that's lived in captivity the whole time, there's nothing wrong with either one, but it's knowing and understanding that. And in our family, the kids help with not only being in the field. Our son Jax is 2. He helps with helping cut it up. He helps with the cooking of it and doing everything. So you really see it come full circle because it's true. We get our meat in cellophane and people just think that's where it comes from. And we're about a generation away from completely forgetting that it didn't just show up like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think honestly, like the quality of the meat and like the health of it is just going to be far superior to what you get from the processed meats that are, antibiotics and all that. I mean, I try my best to buy organic meats. But even then, like I remember my husband and I went out to visit some friends in Colorado and they had a friend who had this cabin kind of up on the way to Estes Park. And we were talking with him, and he was a big hunter, big kind of like living off the land type of person.
Mhm.
And he was like, "So who's your meat guy?" And I'm like, meat guy? Like, I don't know, fries?" And he's like, "No, you got to have a meat guy. You got to know where your meat comes from." And he was so adamant about it. And
Mhm.
now that I'm kind of like learning a little bit more about that processing and hunters and all that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes so much more sense. Like, yeah, like that, what you put in your body is not just, well, this meat or whatever. It's like everything that that animal went through, all the things that they were fed. It's just far more healthy to have something that's had like a natural life
Mhm.
before you eat and process it. So really
And
cool.
it's a lot leaner. Heart disease is a huge problem all across, and elk, deer, all of that is so much more lean. And a lot of people have the misconception that it doesn't taste very good, right? That's all about how you process it and what you do with it. Some animals, because they're super old, at times they can be kind of tough, so you make them into hamburger. But as a rule, they taste delicious. Our kids eat it all the time. If our kids can eat it, everybody else will be just fine with it too. So I think that's something that people think too, that, oh, I don't know how to cook it. If you don't know how to cook it, you literally can make the whole thing into burger or meat sticks. Kids love meat sticks. We always have them in the driveway. That's just cheese and meat built right in, and it's deer or it's turkey. And they're so healthy compared to how expensive it is to buy jerky or meat sticks at the grocery store, and you don't know what's in it.
Right. Like 90% preservatives and like, soy and then maybe a little bit of meat for flavoring.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's so cool. So let's rewind a little bit, like, because I think a lot of moms may be interested in that because I think nutrition and health and like building community with their families and doing stuff with their kids is of interest to them, but it's kind of a daunting task. So, how, if I wanted to start hunting or kind of get into that whole lifestyle, where would I even start with that?
I always tell people the best thing to do is almost find like a mentor in your area that can help you. Whether that Find out where licenses are sold. Go in there and say, I'm interested in shooting a deer for our family or a turkey. What do I need to do? And you will be amazed at how helpful people are. You need to find out what time of the years. Turkeys are shot in the spring. A lot of the others are in the fall, and you got to make sure you have the correct license. If you need to put in ahead of time, have someone kind of help you through that, and then to get the right gear, because you don't want to go out there and have a gun that's not equipped for what you want to shoot, for example. You can't take a rifle out to go shoot a turkey. You got to have a shotgun because that's what's legal in most states. So I think it's helpful to find someone that's a mentor, or honestly, go to YouTube. You can learn so many things right there, and learn what you're interested in, or what kind of time of year you have more time. That's another important thing. And then once you get into it, bring your kids along. Even if you guys aren't successful, having time where nothing else is going on except for sitting in a turkey blind waiting for something to come, the conversations, those memories, they're so important. And when I still look back at the things my mom and dad did, we loved that. We had so much fun together. And even now, we take our 2-year-old along everywhere. He was 1.5, and we were out turkey hunting, and he was having a wonderful time. Does it change it? Of course, a little bit. You can't be as serious when nap time comes. You need to go home. But I think it's really important to bring them up with it from the beginning. And even if you don't know everything, that's fine. Just get out there, enjoy it. Maybe start off by hiking, seeing things, talking to DNR people. You can even call your local conservation officer and say, I'm interested in hunting. Can you help me? There's classes. People have things set up where they have like a women's camp where they teach you gun safety and how to use a bow and how to cut up an animal. So there's a lot of options out there now, because they want people to learn. We need more hunting people in the community.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to start. I think so. And you said DNR people. What does
Yep.
that
So
mean?
a DNR officer, they're like a game warden, right? So
Okay.
they're the kind of cops of all the animals. That's what my husband does as well. And
Oh,
you
nice.
can call them and say, hey, I'm interested in hunting. Can you tell me a little bit more about this, or what do I need? And they're very helpful. Most communities will have even an office where you can go into, and it's a lot of times a federal office with people that work there, and they are all about helping you or putting you in touch with the right people. Sometimes they have people's a name list of mentors who are interested in helping people, and then you get the one-on-one contact. So there are a lot of options out there.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. I might actually have to try that because I know a bunch of my neighbors hunt and I'm like, I'm a little intimidated by the whole process, but really want to do it. That's really cool. So you said your husband is a DNR person, right?
Yes.
Tell me you guys met on a hunt.
Yep, we did. That is true.
That's
I was
awesome.
hunting in South Dakota and he came by, and actually my guide had left me sitting in the freezing cold and he let me warm up in his truck. So he was super nice.
So there you go. Single ladies
Yeah.
out there, you could meet a super
There you go.
nice
You never
DNR
know
guy.
what you'll find.
All you got to do is warm up in their truck. So I
Yep,
guess hunt
yep.
in the winter. That's
there you
that's
go.
my takeaway. That's
funny.
really cool. Awesome. Well, I just, like, what else am I not asking? Like, what else do you think women should know when it comes to like hunting or processing meat with their kids? Like, if you could give like one piece of advice to them, what would it be?
Well, I think to not be afraid and to not be intimidated, because the number one thing that I can tell people is that they are, husbands and fathers, and they want to help. And all of us want to get more people involved. And the best way to get people involved is by word of mouth. So if your neighbors hunt, for example, I bet if you asked them and said, hey, I'm kind of interested, you'd be amazed. They're like, oh, yeah, that's awesome. I'll help you do this, 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 and this. And just not to be intimidated. And, maybe start off easy. You could start off by taking a camera with first. If you had an area you thought might be good, go in there, film, and do it that way for maybe even a year or a season, just to see what you see and see if you're enjoying it. And some people never want to put a camera down and they'd always rather take pictures than shoot them. That's great too. There's nothing wrong with that. So knowing that you don't have to go out there, and most of the time you're not shooting something. You're out there watching does and fawns do all sorts of neat things together, and you'll see so many amazing things. The actual hunting and shooting an animal part is a very small portion. Now, if you want the meat for your family, that is a step you need to take to get to the meat, but you're going to enjoy a lot of those other opportunities along the way.
That's awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Moms out there, women, if you are interested in like getting into hunting or just understanding a little bit more about that world, definitely check out the Sportsman channel, Winchester Deadly Passion with Melissa Bachman. There is some amazing video and content on there. Just you could spend hours and hours just watching. It's so cool. I encourage you guys to get out there and try, like Melissa was saying, contact your local offices, find out like if they have a list of mentors, get the right gear, just go out there, take some pictures, and just get out there and do it and bring your kids. Like, this is a great experience for everybody. Melissa, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You were an inspiration to me and just so many other people. And I just really, really appreciate you taking the time to share a little bit about what you do and how you got in it and your passion. So you are amazing. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I sure appreciate it.
All right, ladies, I'll talk to you guys later. Great job. You made it to the end. You are one tough mother. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to support the work that we do and keep the good lovin' coming, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're listening. What's that? You're one of those crazy mother followers that wants more of this nonsense? You got it. Subscribe to the Moms Love Guns YouTube channel, follow us at Moms Love Guns on Instagram, and join our free private Facebook group to connect with other women just like you in an encouraging and non-judgmental community. If you want to share even more love, share your new favorite community with a friend or all of your friends, maybe even a few enemies, just to be safe. Get out there, overcome your fears, be not afraid. You have got this.